During the short lesson, we will be learning about cognitive development. During the course of this lesson, I hope to answer the following questions with you. How did Piaget view the developmental stages of a child's mind? And how does current thinking about cognitive development differ? First thing that we need to cover is cognition. Cognition refers to all the mental activities associated with thinking, knowing, remembering, and communicating. Somewhere on your journey from egghood to childhood, you became conscious. And when was that? And how did your mind unfold from there? These are questions that we would like to answer. Now, psychologist Jean Piaget spent half a century searching for answers to such questions. Thanks partly to his pioneering work, we now understand that a child's mind is not a miniature model of an adult's. Children reason differently. Piaget's interest began at about 1920 when he was developing questions for a children's intelligence test in Paris. Looking over the test results, he noticed that something very interesting, that certain stages children made similar mistakes. He saw intelligence at work. Piaget's studies led him to believe that a child's mind develops through a series of stages, and that primarily is where we learn about what we're going to learn about in this lesson. So he came up with a theory of cognitive development. And his detailed studies of cognition helps us understand the different stages, and it shows that young children think strikingly differently than adults. Maturation. As a flower develops in accord with its genetic instructions, so do we as humans. Maturation sets the course of development, while experience adjusts it. Biological growth processes, this is what it is, it leads to orderly changes in our behavior. So this is a good example of it. First, infants begin to roll over, and next they sit, unsupported, they crawl, and then finally they'll walk. The experience has little effect on this sequence. So maturation is an orderly process. Schemas are what we need to talk about next. Piaget believed that the force driving us up this intelligence ladder is our struggle to make sense of our experiences. His core idea was that children are active thinkers, constantly trying to construct more advanced understanding of the world. Part of his active thinking building is called schemas. These are concepts or mental molds to which we pour our experiences. By adulthood, we have built countless schemas. They range from what a dog is to what love is. So schemas are basically a concept or framework that organizes and interprets information. And it mentally molds what we pour into our experiences. To explain how we use and adjust our schemas, Piaget proposed two more concepts. First, we assimilate new experiences. We interpret them in terms of our current understandings. Having a simple schema for a dog, for example, a toddler may call all four-legged animals dogs. But as we interact with the world, we also adjust, or we accommodate our schemas to incorporate information provided by new experiences. Thus, the child soon learns that the original dog schema is too broad, and he accommodates by refining the category. So we're going to change current understandings or schemas to incorporate new information or experiences. So this is how it works. A child bangs their favorite toy. The schema is that the babies know that this toy will make sound when they bang it. They assimilate this information. They assimilate the fact that if they hit a different toy, it makes another banging sound. So they assimilate that a block makes a sound as well into their schema or their current understanding. Now when they try to hit an egg on the counter and it just splats, they have to change their existing schema. Not everything will make that banging sound on the counter when you hit it on the counter. So the sensorimotor stage is the first stage that we learn about through Piaget. It begins at birth and lasts for nearly 2 years of until 2 years of age. In this stage, babies take in the world through their senses and actions, through looking, hearing, touching, mouthing, and grasping. As their hands and limbs begin to move, they learn to make things happen. So in this stage, they experience their world through their senses. Very young babies seem to live in the present. Out of sight is out of mind. In one test, Piaget showed an infant a peeling toy and then flopped his hat over it. Before the age of 6 months, an infant acted as if the toy no longer existed. Young infants lacked what we call object permanence. The object permanence is the awareness that things continue to exist even when not perceived. Okay, so by about 8 months, infants begin to show that they do remember these things. They believe that object permanence, many psychologists and researchers believe that object permanence unfolds gradually and that they view development more continuous than Piaget did. So they have a very slightly different thinking about object permanence than Piaget. Okay, so stranger anxiety is the fear of strangers. This begins at about 8 months of age. And here is an example of object permanence in this video clip.
New babies aren't quite sure what happens to objects when they leave their sight. Sky's mom keeps disappearing and reappearing. No wonder peekaboo is so much fun. During their first year, however, infants will learn an important concept: object permanence. Everything has a life of its own, even if it is out of sight.
At Maya's age, babies know to look for the object, but they might not have everything else straight. 10-month-old Simon is about to make a classic mistake, known as the A not B error. Although he watched us place the toy plane under the white cloth, he'll look for it where he last found it, not where he watched us hide it. If a 1-year-old can't find an object they want right away, they're likely to give up looking.
Okay, the next stage that we're going to be talking about is the preoperational stage. Piaget believed that until about the age of 6 or 7, children are in a preoperational stage. They're too young to perform mental processes such as imagining an action and mentally reversing it. And they have a little difficulty with operations of concrete logic. Okay, so during this stage, egocentrism is also present. Piaget believed that preschool children are egocentric. They have difficulty imagining things from another's point of view. So you asked to show mommy your picture, a 2-year-old will hold the picture up to her face to see to her own eyes. Told to hide, a 3-year-old will put their hands over their eyes, assuming that if he can't see you, then you can't see him. At this age, children simply are not yet able to take another's viewpoint. Also during this stage, children are involved in pretend play. A child who can perform mental operations can think in symbols and therefore begins to enjoy pretend play. Contemporary researchers have found symbolic thinking at an earlier age than Piaget supposed. Consider a 5-year-old who objects that there is too much milk in a tall, narrow glass. Too much may become an acceptable amount if you pour that milk into a short, wide glass. Focusing only on the height dimension, the child cannot perform the operation of mentally pouring the milk back into the tall glass until about age 6. This is something called conservation, the idea that the amount remains the same even if it changes shape. The preoperational child does not understand the principle of conservation. And here is a clip to give you an example.
Can you look at these two glasses? Do you think that they have the same amount of juice? You think they have the same? Okay. Now we're going to pour this juice into this glass. Now, do you think that this glass has more juice, this glass has more juice, or do you think that they have the same amount?
That one has more.
This one has more, and why do you think that this one has more?
Because it's taller.
Okay, you ready? Okay. Does this row have more quarters? Does this row have more quarters, or do they have the same?
1, 2, 3. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're both the same.
They're the same?
5, 5.
Okay. Okay. Does this row have more quarters? Does this row have more, or do they have the same?
This one has more.
That one has more quarters?
Yeah.
Why does this row have more quarters?
Because it's more far away.
It's more far away?
Yeah, it's more far away than that. Looks bigger.
Alright, we're going to play a game with the graham crackers, and we're going to share them between me and you, okay? Okay. Do you think that we shared those fairly?
No.
No, why not?
You have those and I have this one.
Well, what if we try this? Okay, can I put this down right there?
Okay.
Now is it fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, why is it fair now?
Because we both have two.
So now you understand how you can kind of pull one over on your little brother or sister. The child in this clip simply did not yet understand the principle of conservation. Okay, so concrete operational stage. This is the next stage that we'll be talking about. By the ages of 6 or 7, said Piaget, children enter into the concrete operational stage. Piaget believed that during the concrete operational stage, children become able to understand simple math. Okay, so they think logically about concrete events, they grasp concrete analogies, and they are able to perform arithmetic and different arithmetic operations and such. All right, so given concrete materials, they begin to grasp conservation, understanding that change in form does not mean change in quantity. They can mentally pour milk back and forth between glasses of different shapes or water or juice. They also enjoy jokes that allow them to use this new understanding. They think a little bit differently. So during this concrete operational stage, they are able to understand simple math and conservation. It still doesn't matter what size of the container it is. It's still the same amount of water. And here we have an example of concrete operational stage.
So first we're going to look at these two cups right here. Do you think there's the same amount of juice in this glass as there is in that glass? They're even? Okay. So we're going to take the juice from this glass and pour it into this one right here. Okay, so now we're going to look at this glass and that one. So do you think that there's more juice in this glass, more juice in this glass, or do you think that they have the same amount?
Same amount.
Okay, why do you think that they have the same amount?
Just because this is skinny doesn't mean it's not the same amount. It has the same amount of juice in it, but this one is just wider and this one's skinnier. but they have the same amount of juice in them.
Okay, so this young girl clearly understands conservation at this point. The next stage that we're going to be talking about is the formal operational stage. So by the age of 12, Piaget said that our reasoning expands to include abstract thinking. We're no longer limited to purely concrete reasoning based on actual experiences. As children approach adolescence, many become capable of abstract thinking, such as if something happens, then something else will happen. Okay, and so they're able to think a little bit outside the box and be able to be more abstract with their thinking. Piaget called this new system and this new reasoning ability formal operational thinking. And so people began to think logically about abstract concepts. So this video clip, you're first going to see a young boy who's not yet to the formal operational stage. He's too young. He can't think abstractly. And then you're going to see a young woman, a teenager, that is in the formal operational stage.
It says, if you hit a glass with a hammer, the glass will break.
I knew that.
And then this one says, Don hit a glass with a hammer.
I knew that too.
So what happened to the glass?
It broke.
It broke. Why did it break?
Because the hammer's hard.
If you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break.
No, it won't.
And this is the second rule. Don hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
Nothing.
Nothing happened? Why didn't anything happen?
Because the feather was soft.
First one says, if you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break. Okay. And the second one, Don hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
It broke.
And why did it break?
Because the rule says if you hit a glass with a feather, it'll break. So if you hit a glass with a feather, broke.